Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Welcome to Genuine Business Stories, where we uncover the real journeys behind successful entrepreneurs. Today's guest is Marcus Wilson. He is a successful businessman. And Marcus, I'm going to turn it over and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks, Clint. It's nice to sit and talk to you here for a minute, I guess, about myself. Name is Marcus Wilson. I'm with a company called AssuredPartners, which is an insurance agency that's nationwide. Been there. I've been in the insurance business for 25 years, actually, this September. And my specialty is group health insurance, cost containment measures inside of healthcare plans, and really what causes rates to go up and how do we combat this whole broken process of employee benefits nightmares that companies are dealing with. So that's my specialty. Married 36 years. I'm terrible with dates, so I have to ask my wife for forgiveness. I've got 2 kids. My son is 27, and my daughter is 36. They live on both sides of the country. My daughter lives in Maryland, and my son lives in Long Beach, California. So been doing this for a long time. Started out the business actually in life insurance. I did life insurance for about 2-3 years. Did pretty well. Actually won Rookie of the Year for a company that no longer exists. They were purchased up in the big gobbly world of insurance that everyone buys everybody. And then I became an insurance broker back in the year 2000.
So what led you to health insurance?
So I was doing life insurance, and I realized that I was only as good as my last sale. Meaning, if I had a great year, I'd make a lot of money. If I had a bad year, I'd make no money. And so it was kind of up and down. But what led me to insurance in general is a whole nother story. So kind of going back to high school, when they do those little tests to see what you think you might be good at, and everyone's either going to be a firefighter or an astronaut, and they say, what kind of career do you think you'd be good at? Well, the one that came up for me was sales. And I thought, okay, what's the deal with sales? Well, it said sales, you can make an above average income, but it's sometimes inconsistent up and down. Well, the only thing I focused on was above average income. And I thought, okay, I want to make a little extra money, versus some other careers I could be involved in. So I decided to start in sales. First thing I sold. Now this is gonna date me, right? I'm sure you might remember Yellow Pages.
Yes.
Right? It's the Yellow Pages, which don't exist. So you had the big book, and so my job was to go out and sell half-page ads, full-page ads, whatever I could, even little line items to local businesses. And I wasn't that great at it, but I was out there talking to businesses, going in to talking to business owners. Hey, you should be in here. Your customers that can't find you unless you're in the Yellow Pages. Did that. The company went out of business, as did the whole Yellow Pages, industry as we started going on the internet. But I got involved in selling cellular phones. Now, this is back when you had the flip phone. You had the Motorola flip phone. We had Ericsson's. We had all those ones. I think it was.
At least you passed by the bag phone.
Well, I had a bag phone at one point. I had that. Yeah, you were a rock star if you could have a bag phone, right? Because they were
My dad's first cell phone was a bag phone.
They were 3 watts, and you could get better reception and the whole thing. But so I was a manager of a cellular company, and what happened is I actually started to make a lot of money. Now, a lot of money back then was $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I made $60,000 the one year, and the owner of the company came to me and says, "Marcus, you're making too much money. I can't afford to pay you $60,000 again." I thought, what in the world? Like, I just had a great year. I sold a lot of cell phones. And now he's telling me I'm making too much money. And so I realized that I had to leave that company, obviously, right? So here's how I got into insurance. This is back when the LA Times, we were still reading newspapers, And there was a little thing in the LA Times, little small ad, and it said, "Would you like to make six figures? Give us a call." It didn't say what it was. I was like, okay, I want to make six figures. I made 60,000. I'm like, I want to make 100. So I called this place up. It was for an interview in Woodland Hills, California. This was all in California, Woodland Hills. So I got a resume together, showed up my nicest clothes. The guy, he said, usually I throw resumes like yours away. That's what he told me. I usually throw resumes like yours away. I said, okay, well, that makes me feel good, right? I got a terrible resume. So he goes, something about what you said on there, I want to talk to you. So he ended up hiring me as a life insurance agent. Now, I didn't have my license. I wasn't a licensed agent, didn't know anything about insurance whatsoever. It was 3 hours away from my home in Woodland Hills, because I lived in a small town called Santa Maria. And he goes, we're going to pay for your license. We're going to get you through. You're going to become a life insurance agent. We're going to take care of you. Well, he wanted me to sell investment products. So this was going to be a Series 6 and 63. So I had to get investment. So I aced the life insurance test. I was like this is back when, and I took in LA. So this is back when you would show up and there's like 50 people in the room. It's a paper test, no computers, paper test. And then when you're done, you're supposed to turn it in. Well, I was done and nobody else had turned theirs in and I was done. I'd studied so well for it.
See, you make me feel lucky. Every one of those FINRA tests I took, the life and health, the PNC, they were all on computer.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm old, right?
I think we're the same age.
So I ended up acing that. So then I had to take the Series 6 and 63. So I did the 63, no problem. The 6, I missed by one question. I failed the first time. So they wouldn't hire me. They said, well, you failed this test. You got to pass the 6. And you had to wait like 30 days to take it again. So you couldn't just go take it again. So I had no money. I had no money. We were living with my parents, had a small child, zero income. It was bad. And I remember going to the beach. I was by myself. I went to the beach because I was just distraught. And I looked over at this multi-million-dollar house. And sitting in the house, in the garage, was a Dodge Viper. Dodge Viper, right? My dream car back in the in the day. So I'm like, man, can you imagine that person? They're a beach house with the Dodge Viper, the whole thing. Like, that's what I want. So my family had to go to Las Vegas and stay with my sister. They were there. I stayed here and had to retake the test. We had no place to live. Keep in mind, I had no place to live. I studied only. All I did was study. I had no life. I just studied for those 30 days. So I aced the test. And I think I only missed one, right? The next time I went and took the test. So they hired me. Had no money still, right? Took a while. Insurance business, right? You don't get paid right away. So I'm sitting there. I had to live at an old lady's house. I had to go live at an old lady's house. I had and all I could use was the bedroom and the bathroom. That was it. So I had to go straight from the front door to the bedroom, and then I could use the bathroom, and that was it. Like, I couldn't use the kitchen. I couldn't go in the living room. I couldn't go anywhere. So just a tumultuous time, man. It was really bad for our family. We weren't together. I was trying to get started in the insurance business. No money, no nothing. And then I started making sales.
Do you remember your first sale?
I do. My first big sale, I think it was like a $12,000 life insurance deal that I made. And
you remember your first commission on that?
Yeah, it's $12,000. Yeah, it was incredible. And the funny story is, we had no money in the bank. You know how I don't know if you know, but when you get on the bad list with the bank, like you're on some sort of thing where you bounce so many checks that you're on the bad list. Like, we were there, right? And so my wife got my first check because she was back at the house. I was like in LA. She got the first check. She tried to go like cash it or whatever. They wouldn't let her cash it. They're like, well, you're negative in the bank. I know it's a $12,000 check or whatever it is, but we're going to have to wait for so many days for it to clear. And she's like, she has a baby. My wife, she has a baby. She's standing there at the bank. She's like, I need money. I need money for my kids. Like, I need food. I have no money. I have no gas. So I don't know. They went back. I think they gave her like $300 or $500 or something. They gave her more than they normally would have. They gave her some of it. So, to make it the long story short, the first year in the insurance business, I became the rookie of the year, which was extremely exciting for me. I was the top salesperson for all the agents. I had to go back to Florida and make a big speech in front of the whole thousands of people company. It was,
How was that first big speech in front of people?
well, you're on a video wall, right? So it's, I'm a local hometown boy. So for me, with no money, all of a sudden I'm making six figures that first year, which is funny because that's what the ad says. The ad says, here, you can make six figures here. And I did it the first year, which is crazy.
Six figures in just life shows exactly how you connect with people. That is not easy to do.
Well, what's funny is the other guys in the office didn't like me because they were city boys. And so they were like the big city, LA, Woodland Hills, the whole thing. And I was outselling them living in a small town. Like, how's this guy outselling me? They were mad. I was rookie of the year. So I have to credit my life insurance and my insurance success to one person. His name is Mike Frieda. He was a New Yorker. He was the guy that hired me. He's the guy that told me I usually throw resumes like yours away. He's the guy that really got me going. And I tell you what, when I made it in my career, about 10, 12 years later, I actually called him on his phone because he was in New York. I said, man, thank you, Mike. You got me into this business. You helped me succeed. You showed me what success was like. You mentored me. And it's because of you that I'm here. And it was nice, to be able to kind of have gone through such a horrible, first couple of years in the business, no money, you're trying to, provide for your family. And he was there to support me.
Your mentor calls, how often were they? Once a week, once a month?
I was in LA a couple days a week. He was there. It was really a, he had you under his thumb. But I did appreciate that because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So you do need a mentor and someone you can, because when he left, year 3 he left, I didn't connect with the new guy. The new guy's advice was, well, hey, you're struggling, Marcus. You should probably go out and buy an expensive car. That'll make it so that you'll want to work harder to pay for that car. And he just didn't understand me. He didn't understand what my motivation was. So going back to the Viper, So that Viper that I saw. So when I first started in the insurance business, they maybe put this vision book together. I don't know if you've ever put a vision book together. Mm-hmm. And it says what you want. And I put like a big screen TV, and I wanted a private jet, and I wanted, all these things. And I put the Viper in there and put a picture of it. It was many years later, over 10 years, 12 years later. And I'll get into how I got into health insurance, but 12 years later, I actually bought that Viper.
Same one from that guy.
Black, convertible, just like the one in the picture. And I would open the garage and look in there and go, is that my garage? And I still have the vision book at my house today. I still have that book. It's in a blue binder, and there's a picture of that black Viper. And anyway, so it just, it was a long ride, 12 years. Think about that, 12 years to achieve your goal. So anyway, health insurance. Life insurance wasn't working for me. I made 100,000, maybe 110 the first year. I made like 75 the next year, and then 60 the year after that. And I'm thinking, oh no, my income is going down. I can't survive I'm back to cell phone days of 60,000 a year. So I decided living in LA and traveling 3 hours wasn't for me. So I decided to get to look at health insurance because I heard health insurance was residual income. So residual income, you're not as good as your last sale, right? You build a book of business, you get paid when they pay their insurance. So we had, I think, 3 insurance companies in our town. And I walked around, I drove around to the different insurance companies, and the one that I picked had the nicest cars in the parking lot. They had $100,000 Mercedes, big old SUVs, the whole thing. I thought, these guys are making money at this place. So I walked in. I was already licensed for life and health. They're like, oh, yeah, we'd love to hire you. So they hired me, brought me in. And they said, how much money do you need to make? And I was like, oh man, how much money do I need to make? So I said 48,000 a year. I said 50,000 a year. I don't know why I said such a low number. I think I was nervous that if I said 60 or 70, they weren't going to pay me. So I said 48. Yeah, 48,000, perfect. You're hired. They hired me.
That's when you knew you undercut yourself.
I made a mistake. So
when that yes comes too quick.
So I had to file bankruptcy because I wasn't making any money in life insurance. And have you heard of chargebacks? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got hit with a whole bunch of chargebacks. And they go, well, we're going to basically, you owe us more than you're making here. So I think I owed 15 or 20 grand in chargebacks, some crazy number. And I couldn't pay it, so I had to file bankruptcy. And that was bad. And only making $4,000 a month with a family of I had 2 kids at that point, young kids, paying rent. You just file bankruptcy, your credit's bad. And little did I know that for 3 years I was going to make the same amount of money, $48,000 a year. Oh no! So I still remember the guy coming to the house every month to shut off the electricity. My wife writing a check, knowing there was no money in the bank, but knowing that we were going to get paid like in 2 days. And so by the time the check cleared, there'd be money in the bank. Worried that our credit card, it was a debit card at that point, was not going to go through. So she had to. So we went from no money to making good money for a couple of years to no money again, up and down. So I ended up 3 years. So the first breakthrough in health insurance. I got to give that credit to Aflac. You guys have all heard of Aflac, right? The duck, the whole thing. So I went out prospecting. I built up a book of business to a point, but not enough to break through the $4,800 they were paying me. And I went out prospecting with an Aflac lady who's since passed away. She was an incredible woman. And I credit her really for my success in the health insurance industry to get started. Her name was Karen Lindsay. And we wrote an oil company. And it was like a $50,000 sale, health insurance sale. And man, that broke me through the $4,800 and I started making more money. And I was the star and I was making money and it was good. And I was confident, full of confidence. As a salesperson, you got to have confidence. You have a bad day. You don't feel confident. You don't feel like anybody likes you. You're not going to do well.
If we're not careful, it can snowball.
That's right. And I think it does for a lot of people, unfortunately. I think my motivation, if you think about my story, was really my family from the beginning. Making sure that my wife, my 2 kids were well taken care of. We had a place to live. I didn't want my wife to have to go to the store and worry about writing bad checks or, that kind of thing. So anyway, started doing well.
So what was the turning point? How did you go from struggling to all of a sudden things started clicking?
It was just a matter of, so I didn't take a vacation for 5 years when I first started in the health insurance business. I worked every day. And I think it's the long term of just putting your clothes on every day, going to work, having a happy face, putting up with the negativity, dealing with the crap.
Perseverance.
It really is, because I saw, so the show Survivor, they say outwit, outlast, outplay. I kind of feel like that's what I did in that agency that I was with. I outwitted a lot of the other sales folks. I outlasted them. They left, and I outplayed them.
I hate failure, and I've always believed failure only comes when you quit.
And a lot of people
doesn't mean there aren't times that you don't need to, as type A entrepreneurial personalities go, this is really getting silly. I need to move on, like from life insurance on to health, with me from some other careers to my commercial insurance brokerage. But it's always, when you hate failure, it takes a lot to get you to go, this isn't going to work, because your mind just says, I can fix this. I can make it work. There's nothing I can't make it work.
Yeah. Well, that's the entrepreneurial spirit, right? Because businesses, what was it? Brad Pitt failed 1,000 times or something before he actually got this first movie gig. He failed so many times, and now everybody knows the name Brad Pitt. So you think of stories like that and how they might relate to your life. And it's funny because now thinking back on all that, that was like a different me, a different time than it is now, because I've tasted success. But back then it was a different time, man. There was no money. There was no hope. Some points, I'll never forget one time. I was in a basketball league. I'm 6'4", so I was in a rec basketball league. And the guy that came to shut off my power was the ref for that basketball league. He came to shut off my power, and he was the ref. He opens the door. He goes, oh, it's you. He goes, well, I won't shut off your power. He goes, just if you can pay by today or tomorrow, he said, you'll be fine. I was like, oh, it's so embarrassing, because you're going to see him the next week on the court, and he's there to shut off your power. You got no money.
But times like that either push you to succeed, or with some personalities, it pushes you into a ball on the couch.
Yeah.
Just with the woe is me type
Well,
attitude.
I've had my ball on the couch moments. I think I still have those from time to time when
We
things don't go.
just keep them brief.
Yeah, exactly. So I did well at that agency. I was there for many years, and we were purchased by a company. So we actually had 3 different names while we were there over my, I'd say, 20-year career there. I was the last one left. I think there was 6 or 7 agents when I first started, and I was the only one left at the end. So I ended up getting all the business from all the other reps, my own business, the whole thing. I had actually generated a $1.2 million book of business over that period of time, which, I mentioned how I got the Viper and it was in my garage. So I was able to buy a house. I was able to get the Viper. I was able to have a second car. We were able to go on some vacations, all of that hard work, staying with it, outwitting, outlasting, outplaying everybody. All of a sudden, I was actually the top book in my office, meaning all the other long-term brokers, I had more book of business than they did. P&C, life and health, all that. I was a top. So again, I had.
So how did they react?
Well, they weren't happy. They were mad, which is funny because instead of being happy that I'm succeeding and making the company profitable, they were upset that this poor boy or whatever I was looked at had this $1.2 million book of business. It was almost 1.3. And I think the closest one was like 900,000. So I was well above what they were.
The sad thing about that is it's like you and I have discussed. There is more than enough business for all of us to be successful and not play petty games.
Well, listen, these
times that I can help you, times you can help me.
And the funny part is they were well richer than I was. They had big houses on the hill and big cars and big money. They'd been making all that money for 20 years, right? I had just started making money. And so they ended up being forced to make me a partner in the firm. They couldn't hide it anymore. I was the top guy. I had the largest book. They had to make me a partner. So I got 1% of the company. I owned 1% of the agency. And, you think of God in all this. I'm a Christian and have been my whole life. And you think of how God is leading in your life. The timing of me becoming a partner was amazing.
Yeah.
Because 2 years after I became a partner, we sold the agency to AssuredPartners. So our little agency was purchased by AssuredPartners. Now, for me, I had to put no money in to become a partner. So it wasn't like I put $500,000 in or $1 million, whatever. I didn't put any money in to become a partner. They just simply said, you're going to pay off this share over a period of 10 years. Here's the paperwork. You're a partner. You're now a 1% owner in the company, the whole thing. Now, keep in mind, this is 20 years of putting my head down and hard work. So
once you broke your financial annual goals, this time did you keep them above that mark?
I think for anybody, once you make over $100,000 a year for several years in a row, life gets a little easier.
Yeah,
financially. When you're making $40,000, $50,000 a year, you're struggling. In today's economy, I feel like even making 100, a lot of people are struggling. But when you start making that kind of income consistently, because keep in mind, I was up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start making 6 figures consistently, you can pay your bills. You can go on vacation. You can buy Vipers. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? There's things you can do. So that stress then goes away. Doesn't mean there's not other stress that comes up. I'm sure you're aware. But that financial stress goes away. And so when you become a partner, all of a sudden my income doubled, tripled, became a partner. So AssuredPartners, we actually had 12 companies try to buy our agency. And it took about a year to kind of figure out who was going to buy our company. We had USI come in, we had Higginbotham, they all came in trying to buy us. And we ended up going with AssuredPartners because of the values I think that this company had with the ownership matched better with our values of the ownership of the company I was with. We actually took less money than I think USI offered us more money. We turned that down and we went with AssuredPartners. So all of that, and then we have to shift to now almost the second half of my life, which is when they purchased our company, when AssuredPartners bought us. So keeping in mind all the struggle and stress that I just mentioned I'd gone through in my life to get there, outwit, outlasted, outplayed everybody. The company purchased us. I was the lowest man on the totem pole. I just had 1% of the company, and I got just under $2 million.
Congratulations.
It's unbelievable, really. I put no money in. I outlasted, outplayed everybody. I didn't give up. I stayed with it with a lot of people that didn't like me specifically. I don't know why. They just didn't like that I was making success better than they were. And here I am. And so it's really, when you look back at that, and it's to go from your electricity is getting shut off by the ref on your basketball team, to getting all of that money. It's sometimes I'll just kind of stop and go, what just happened? And I know I did that for a while. But the funny part is when you have that money in your bank, it's numbers on your phone.
Yeah.
There's nothing different about me. I'm the same person when I have 20,000 in the bank or when I have $1 million in the bank. Same person, right? I look the same. I'm the same weight. I got the same medical problem. I got the same everything, right? It's just numbers on your phone. You look at those numbers on your phone and you're like, what does that mean? You look at those numbers. What is that? Now, that was 2019 when that happened. So what happened in 2020?
COVID, lockdowns.
How many people have you talked to that their life was destroyed by COVID?
A lot.
A lot of people.
And if not destroyed, affected.
Yeah.
Even with my business, it greatly affected.
So had money, but I wasn't able to do any business because, keep in mind, it's California. California's locked down. Or locked down. Masks. You can't go outside. 6 feet apart. They're putting stuff in the supermarkets that said you have to follow these lines when you're in the supermarket. It was like just a government lockdown in California. It was really bad. I couldn't sell. I couldn't do anything. I was in my house. You're an insurance broker. You like to go out and talk to people and meet people. I've done that my whole life. Shake hands. You're hanging out at events. You're talking to people. You're a social guy. All of a sudden, you're in your house.
Well, and we weren't locked down near to the degree in Texas. You were in California, but the psychological lockdown was still there.
So God bless Texas.
You weren't quite sure how businesses were going to receive you just walking in.
Yeah,
you couldn't go in the grocery store without a mask.
Yeah,
I mean, so from a psychological standpoint, even for states that didn't go to the degree of New York and California, it still had almost
the psychological
effect. Effect.
So let me throw a curveball in there. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer right during COVID. And it was triple negative. And it was aggressive, kind of can kill you. Mm. So imagine going through COVID with breast cancer when your immune system is down. And they tell you if you don't get the vaccine, you could die, right? So that's what we were dealing with. She lost her hair. I was there for the nights when it's not good. The chemo's poison. It was really, really bad going through that. I couldn't be with her for her treatments. I had to drop her off at the door and watch her walk up. She had to have a surgery where they put a port in her chest to give her the chemo. That was tough. I couldn't be there to hold her hand. So she'd go in with just a bunch of doctors with masks, totally detrimental for her mental health, having to worry about a potential life-threatening illness. Now, my sister had passed away from cancer years earlier. I've got a whole story on that. She passed away from cancer. So here my wife has breast cancer. We've got COVID. We're locked down. I can't sell. It's, I got numbers on the bank on my phone. Who cares, right? You've got all that going on. So I actually went into a state of depression. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a depressed guy. I'm the kind of guy that's out there happy, enjoying myself, doing fun things, and life of the party, whatever. No. I was depressed, and I didn't know what depression was because I've never been depressed. So I'm sitting around like dealing with my wife who was struggling, fighting for her life. I have to be the strong one, and then you can't sell, so you're completely done. There's no health insurance sales happening. The people at my company were not great. They were, I won't use negative words on the show. They were jerks. At my company, they didn't care about me. And so that was a really bad time of my life. And again, people have to realize money doesn't fix those issues. You could be a billionaire and be going through that. It doesn't matter. So the story ends up, my wife destroys cancer, beats it. She's a survivor. She's like my hero right now. She is, to see what she went through, to see her now, she's so beautiful.
Well, congratulations.
Her hair's come back.
Prayers.
Oh, absolutely. It was unbelievable. She fought back, beat it. When the doctor called with her pathology report and said, I'm calling you early because I've never seen this good of a pathology report. The cancer's gone. Didn't spread in your body. Chemo killed it. Radiation killed it. It's gone. You don't have to take additional treatments. You're done. It was just, talk about a blessing from heaven. So she did. So here I am. I have no opportunities for my business. My business is closed for a year or pretty close to it. I'm not making sales. I got to book a business. It's there. Do you know how much taxes you have to pay on $1 million+ dollars? So I wrote a check to the state of California for probably $300,000. Can you imagine?
See, if you'd have lived in Texas during that point, you'd have kept that 300.
Zero. Yeah. So paid a whole bunch of taxes for Fed and state. I still had some money. I think I kind of drowned a little bit my money after the cancer thing. I bought a Lamborghini. I'm like, I'm a big dog now. I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini. Bought a Lamborghini. I bought an Audi R8. I had a Shelby GT350. Man, I'm a car guy, right? So I had all these cars. I was driving around my black Lamborghini. Man, I was a big dog in that little town. I had an Audi R8. I was gonna do it on Turo. I was gonna do a rental thing with my R8, but it was still COVID. It's kind of the end of COVID, and I'm like, nah, it didn't work out. And then I had the Mustang GT350. Ironically, I traded the Viper in for the Mustang, which is funny. So I had all these things, and I start realizing I'm losing all my money in California. Taxes, high gas prices, expensive groceries, everything. And I see my money just going down into the tubes. I knew I was never going to leave AssuredPartners. I decided to invest a significant amount of money into AssuredPartners. So I actually had a share of stock in AssuredPartners. So I actually owned kind of voting rights in the company. And I'm like, I can't possibly stay here in California. There was no money that was going to be there. And I saw my wonderful wealth that I had going down the hill. And should I have bought the Lamborghini? No. Should I have bought those cars? I should never have done that, but I did it. So I made some bad financial mistakes as well. I think when you're so poor and then you get rich, you kind of go, I just want to live the rich lifestyle. You know, you want to I could never afford that. And it was kind of cool because I was able to go and I have a picture of my dad in front of my Lambo, right? So, my dad was like, oh my gosh, my son has made it, so you're proud, that you made him proud, that you made your father proud, that you've actually succeeded in life and, financially you've done well. But anyway, I realized that California was not for me a few years ago. And AssuredPartners is a nationwide company, so I could have moved anywhere. I looked at Kansas City. I looked at Tennessee, maybe Arizona. You look at a couple different places. I met the guys here in Texas, and I just hit it off with those guys. I'm like, these are the guys that are going to help me take my career to the next level. These two guys. So
what year did you move here?
So that was it's going to be 3 years in September. So 2022, I think.
So how's Texas treating you?
So first year I was here was one of the hottest summers that we've had, which was fun, right? We had no rain for 100 days. My wife is allergic to mosquitoes. So whenever she gets bit, she has a huge welt on her face, arms, wherever she gets bit, legs. The first couple weeks I was here, I didn't want to go outside with no shoes on because I was thinking a snake was going to bite me. So, I'm this California guy coming to Texas. All I know is there's bugs, there's heat, there's humidity, there's snakes, there's, scorpions. What's going to happen? And so, I now realize that a lot of that fear was irrational. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I would say the only two things I don't like about Texas are the two things nobody does, and that's the heat and humidity. And I know Houston is for that. Yeah. And the bugs can be a little aggressive. I saw the black widow spider in the back of our house yesterday, and you get it. When I moved here, I went to a pest control company, and I said, I want all the services that you have. Everything. I don't care. Inside, outside, spray, mist, whatever you need to do. Get the attic, the whole thing. In fact, the funny part, the first week we were here, a cockroach fell down next to my wife's bed when we were there before we had the pest control. I'm in the living room. She's in the dining room. I heard this blood-curdling scream. We just moved here. And I run in there, and a cockroach fell down right in the bedroom next to her bed. Oh, my God. So that was our welcome to Texas.
Well, that's probably the first thing. It also showed you everything's bigger in Texas, too.
Exactly.
Like, our cockroaches can fly you away.
So, we've settled in now. You know what's interesting is the first thing they ask you when you move to Texas is, oh, where are you from? I think I've been asked that 100 times. Oh, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm from California. And they're like, oh, okay, well, and I actually had a couple people ask me, how do I vote?
Like, hey, you've heard, do not California my Texas.
Right. Which is funny because, in California, they don't ask you that. But, here, you move here, and this first thing you say, well, how do you vote? I said, no, I'm here. I chose Conroe and I chose Montgomery County for a very specific reason as to how they vote. And then they go, okay, it's fine.
We were a very proud state.
Yes, and Montgomery County is a great place. Here's the funny part, and I don't know if you ever thought about this. So when I'm in Texas, I'm from California. When I go traveling to another state, where am I from?
Texas.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in North Carolina, or if I'm in wherever I'm at, or my daughter lives in Maryland, or if we go back to California, where are you from? Well, I'm in Texas. I'm from Texas now. But isn't that funny? When you're in Texas, they go, well, where'd you move from? I go, I moved from California. Okay, great. When you're in some other state, you don't say, well, I moved from California. You say, I'm from Texas. That's
true, but I've spent enough time with you now to know you were always Texas at heart.
I didn't know anything about Texas. And, I'll tell you, if I could get into the insurance business real quick. When I moved to Texas, I felt like I came out of a dome. California has a dome over the business sector, the insurance sector. And it's very strict, and there's only so much you can offer and do. So that's all I knew was California insurance. So when you move to Texas, they go, you can offer whatever you want. I can. So they told me I could start my own insurance. I could make my own insurance program. Can you imagine your own insurance program? I said, there's no way, right? You buy Blue Cross Blue Shield, you buy Cigna, you buy Aetna, you buy United Healthcare. Those are the carriers. You go, no, you can make your own plan. I can. So I actually spent a year. I made my own plan. It was amazing, man. It was most incredible. It was like perfect picture. What would Marcus Wilson want in a health insurance plan? So I made my own plan, man. I work with some TPAs. I work with different carriers, different special things, a pharmacy program, put it all together in this nice little package. I built the Marcus Wilson plan. It was incredible. It took me almost a year to build it. And then I tried to sell it to associations. And the only associations I knew were in California. And they said, no, you can sell this in California. I said, great. So I tried to sell it. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it. I put this amazing thing together that nobody had ever seen with all these cost containment measures and low pharmacy and zero copay for this and that. I couldn't sell it.
So without giving away your trade secrets, you take a different approach. I've talked to you about what you do than a lot of those of us that sell group health care. Your approach is more not just to sell, it's containment and control of the cost. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the broken process. We'll start with the broken process. The broken process for groups. And let me tell you, I was a broken process broker for 20 years. And what that means is I would show up to my clients and I would say, guess what? The insurance industry did great this year. You get an 8% increase, 6% increase. It's single digit increase. Let's all have a little party and dance around. Or I'd show up and I'd say, oh man, 15% increase. The economy's bad. The insurance is bad. Claims are bad. Nothing we can do. 15, 18% increase. Nothing we can do. And I would show up. That's a broken process because we are then at the whim of somebody else to decide what the rates are, the carrier, right? What if we could help manage the claims and the root cause of what is increasing those costs for your company? So let's say you have a $100,000 hospital bill that one of your employees has. Look, accidents happen. People get sick. You break your leg. You're in the hospital for a couple of days. Employees, if you have a company of 100 employees, you're going to have those kinds of things. What if we could take that $135,000 bill down to $18,000? What if we could? if we could do that, there's no way the insurance company has a justification to raise your rates because your claims don't justify it, right?
It's mitigating part of the risk.
It is for the insurance company because they're looking at it as, is this a good company for us or a bad company for us? Now, the big carriers are like, a big cruise ship. They can't really turn that fast versus a speedboat, right? They can move around.
With talking to you, you work with larger numbers with companies, larger group health. So with you putting that process in, by the end of the year, some of your customers, you are really getting them some pretty significant cost control.
Yeah, you have to find those programs. So I actually have programs. I mentioned the 135,000. We one of my proudest accomplishments. I just had one the other day that was 90,000, but 135,000 we took it down to 18,000. I could spend the whole 20 minutes talking about how we did that, but I have a program that will reduce those costs for companies. I just got an email the other day from one of my clients where we took a $94,000 bill down to $24,000. When you do that, you can develop a picture for the insurance company so that when it becomes time for renewal, you have a story now to tell that insurance provider and say, look, this company is not generating a lot of claims. They are well below trend. They're well below everything else. They do not deserve an increase. I had a company that I wrote here in Conroe, and they were notorious for getting 5 to 7% increases. And I said, if you're getting a 5 to 7% increase from a big carrier, you're profitable for them. Your claims are good. He's like, yeah, but I know it should be negative. Like the business owner, it should be negative. I said, look, let me show you what I can do. Give me some time, and I'll get you into a negative. He didn't trust me because when you go to a business owner, you tell them something, they only believe the broken process. The broken process is the insurance company screws me. There's nothing I can do. I'm stuck paying these. I hate insurance. My employees hate insurance. Everybody hates insurance. So I said, give me an opportunity. So we were able to, during that first year, he got his renewal at 5%. The carrier was going to give it, right? We had generated a story during that period of time for the insurance carrier that proved he deserved a -4. Through data analytics, through some of the things that we do internally at AssuredPartners. So we told the story to the insurance carrier. Guess what? He got a -4. He got a -4.
By doing this, you're also, with saving the money, negotiating the bills down, you're getting a double positive, your relationship back with your customer. But what a lot of our customers, because it's our job to know, is it's the relationship you're building with that underwriter. Those relationships are what allow you to go back and go, here's my story.
Yeah.
And that's a side of the business that the insurance owners, we know, the brokers know, but it's not something the customer needs to know, but it is still that ability that you have to work with both of them creates positive results overall.
But go back to me being the regular broker that just shows up at the renewal with your 10% increase. That's the broken process, and that's what standardly brokers do. And there's nothing against brokers. Like I said, I was there for 20 years, so I did that. When you understand how to change the narrative and lower those hospital bills, lower the pharmacy costs. I just put a program in for one of my clients that will provide Ozempic for 1/3 the cost. And guess what? The employee gets it at 0 copay. Can you imagine having Ozempic for 0 copay for your employee? And instead of paying thousands of dollars for that, it's 1/3 that cost. So now the company saves money. The employee loves the plan because they're getting their medication for 0 copay. And you have a story to tell the underwriter that they do not deserve an increase. My philosophy, and I want to get this out, my philosophy working in the health insurance industry is almost not for the business owner, which is funny because that's who I work with is the business owner. My philosophy is for the employee. How do I help that employee with their concerns? Because I'm an employee, right? My wife went through cancer. I've got a story of my own, a cancer story of my own. So I've had those situations where the health insurance is extremely important to me. If the health insurance doesn't pay very well and I've got like a $5,000 or $8,000 deductible and I don't feel like I have insurance, even though I'm paying $800 a month or $1,000 a month for my coverage, I'm going to hate the whole process, right? So my philosophy is, how do I help the end user of the product? The end user of the product is the husband and wife who's got 2 kids and they've got a $2,000 a month health insurance bill. How do I get that $2,000 a month health insurance bill down to $1,500 or $1,200? How do I get that deductible from $8,000 down to $4,000?
So when you work with a company and you get their business, they then how's the process to get the employees to know? Let us know when you have a claim so that gets back to your team so that they can help with those bills.
So think about a negative renewal for a company. Nobody gets negatives, right? Everyone gets positives. So what if we turn that to a -4 one year? What if we -5 the next year? What if all of a sudden the insurance market passes us by and now they're 30% more expensive than my client is? What that means is they can offer better insurance for their employees, meaning they don't have to raise the deductible every year, raise the price every year. So that's a good and a bad thing. So the good thing is now this company has better benefits than their competitors. They have better benefits than the people around them. When the employee's thinking about leaving the company, they go and say, oh, shoot, their benefits aren't as good as where I'm at right now. Here's the bad thing. The bad thing is they're stuck. The reason why they're stuck is because everybody else is 30% higher than they are. I can't quote them. So we've got a rate of, I don't know, $600 for an employee or a rate of $900 for an employee. And they look at it and go, well, geez, I'm not going to go with the $900 option, right? That doesn't make any sense because the market has passed them by. So every time a business gets a 10% increase, how many years does it take it for you're doubling your cost, right? That's what's happening in the insurance business. People hate insurance. They hate health insurance because it's so expensive.
I'm guessing one of the positives on a side note that you get, if you're helping employees with their claims, then by the time that claim is settled, you're also helping with what comes out of pocket directly from that employee.
Yeah.
I heard at a seminar where somebody was presenting that 75% of our bankruptcies now are medical related.
Yeah. It's, why do you think people hate health insurance? Because it's causing them to file bankruptcy. And think of the stress on that person who is going through a medical problem. And then they have the stress of having to pay that high bill. They have the stress of, oh, I've got a $12,000 deductible, $8,000 deductible. I literally feel like I have no health insurance. Or I talked to someone a few weeks ago as a family of 4. They have no health insurance because they go, well, it's too expensive at my company. I can't afford it. I'm working. I'm offered health insurance, but for a family of 4, I can't afford it. So they're cash pay.
Yeah. So
think of the stress on that individual when there's an accident or an injury or a problem in their family. If that person had a $20,000 medical bill that they had to pay, there's where your bankruptcy comes in, right? What about that person I mentioned that had the $130,000 hospital bill? What are they going to do with that? Now, there's programs out there for low-income folks, right? But this person's not low income.
Yeah.
They're working at a bank. They're making good money. They're doing well. They have no health insurance because they can't afford that probably $1,500 a month payment, $2,000 a month payment for their family. So it is a complete broken process. So my goal is to help companies reduce costs over a period of time so that they don't have to have those horrible benefits for their staff, right? How do we reduce the cost so that the end user, which is me and you, and everybody else, doesn't have to go through that horrible 30% increase? There was a company I'm working with right now trying to become their broker. They had 30% increase last year. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So tell me some of the differences between Texas with insurance, meaning with the group healthcare, what you see, versus California. And has it changed your approach, your sales approach, your management approach to accounts? And
yeah, it has, because in Texas I can get claims information twice a year on fully funded groups. I can get claims information twice a year. So I know even in a fully funded group whether or not the claims are running good or bad. And if they're running decent, we got to get them off of fully funded into an alternate funding program where they can take advantage of the good claims. We've got insurance programs where if you're doing well in your claims, you get a full refund. So let's say you're putting $100,000 into claims for your group, right? But let's say your group only used 60,000 of those claims because you had good claims for the year and you didn't, blow it out. You get $40,000 back. Unfortunately, what I see some of the major carriers do, they keep 50% of that refund, or they only refund administrative fees or something. The programs I work with will give you a check, the business owner, for that $40,000. You get to decide what you want to do with it. You could buy a boat with it if you want, right? You could give it back as a bonus to your staff. You could do whatever you want to with that $40,000 if your claims were good. So how do we fix healthcare? So now we're here. How do we fix it? I can't fix the whole industry, but what I can do is I can fix it for my clients. And what that means is we're going to attack the claims inside your plan. So when you get that large hospital bill, when you have 30 people on these GLP-1 drugs, when you have that Humira pen that's $20,000 a month or whatever it is, we have programs, cost containment programs inside the health plan that if we look at them throughout the years proactively, they don't have to hit you as a 30% increase at the end of the year, which is what is the broken process. I don't know what my claims are. All of a sudden I get hit with a 30% increase. That's one way. I know in advance my claims are bad and I've done something about that during the year so that when my renewal comes around, me as a broker can go, they're negative.
So let's talk a little bit about your process for obtaining clients in your sales process.
So I don't quote companies, which is probably one of the biggest things between me and every other broker out there. Every other broker out there will come in and say, hey, it's around your renewal time. Let's go shop the market. Let's look at all these different plans that Texas has. Texas has great plans. They're all over the place. Let me shop that. And guess what? I find you something that's 10% less. I call it a magical unicorn solution. It's 10% less. But guess what? The network's not as good. There's exclusions. There's limitations. There's no magic. There's a reason why it's less, right? It's not a full plan. But a company goes, look, I'm at my wit's end. I can't afford to pay that, so I got to take it. So they go through the quoting process. They come back and they move, and then they hate it. And it's worse than the other plan. They just take the increase, right? So I don't quote. What I do is I take an approach where we look at what I call key performance indicators, or what levers the company is pulling, and whether or not they're successful at those levers or the key performance indicators.
So let's back up a little bit in this process. What are you finding is successful?
Yeah.
Not quoting, but the opportunity is what is most challenging for entrepreneurs, meaning driving that client into even giving you the opportunity. You've got a little different approach for things than sales. So tell us a little bit about how you drive in that sales opportunity.
So the biggest challenge I have is people don't believe me, right? Because what happens is they get I had one guy said I was the 8th person, right, that talked to him about it. So they get contacted by payroll people. They get contacted by brokers. They get contacted by people trying to sell them software programs or whatever. And here I come in the door. I can save your money on health insurance. I've got this great program.
So are you cold calling them, or are you running off of a list where you know who's coming up for renewal?
I do a couple things. I'm getting to the point now where I like referrals, obviously more than anything else. And I call them red hot introductions. A red hot introduction is you're doing your business, right? And you come across someone who you think I can help. You do. And you say, you know what? You mentioned your health insurance is going up. Like, what do you know about that? I had this problem and that problem. It's like, okay, well, I know a guy who I think could probably help you with that. Would you mind if I gave you your cell phone number, right? To this gentleman here, I think that can help you. Was it okay if he calls you on your cell phone? Oh, yeah. Have him give me a call on my cell phone.
That's a great approach, because then you're adding value before you're asking.
Well, I'm not some random guy calling, because that's the problem. How many random people are calling you? I get spam calls all day long. I'm sure you do. Someone trying to buy a property of mine, or I have a tax problem, which I don't have, right? They're like, oh, we can help your tax problem. I don't have a tax problem. I pay my taxes. Anyway, so you get spam calls all day long.
Well, I'm referring more to the fact myself as a business owner, if I'm in with a customer, listening to what they have to say and providing them with a solid referral. It puts that red hot introduction to you, but I don't know that a lot of business owners and sales realize the value they're adding to their customer. We trust people that we do business with.
That's a good point.
So when I refer a business back to you, then that's actually not a negative to that business owner. That business owner's busy. it's a positive. And it may be a couple of people referring a couple of different businesses back that do the same thing. But it is still, I don't have to get on and try to find somebody that there's no experience with. And that's a value add.
Well, think of the difference from a referral, though, because a referral says, hey, call my buddy. He's got health insurance problems. Okay. So I dial a random number. Hey, my name's Marcus. Who are you? Yeah, your buddy Joe said I should call you. I don't know. Call me back in 3 weeks. I'm not, versus the red hot introduction. Oh, Marcus. Yeah. My buddy Joe said you'd be calling. I have this problem. Yeah, I know. I understand a little bit about your problem. Let's sit down for a couple minutes and talk about it. Let's have a little discovery as to what's going on there. So different approach. The referral approach, it's okay. I mean, someone's like, hey, let me give you a referral, and you call, and I don't know if they need you or not. 90% of the time, they don't want to talk to me, right? Even though it's a referral. Red hot introduction is like, I'm expecting your call. It's coming. I got cell phone number. His phone number starts with a 936. He's not a spammer. Answer the phone. So the creative ways to get into people are important, but at the end of the day, you want that relationship with someone. I tell my wife, I laugh, I only need to have 10 or 12 people a year like me, right? Because I'm not selling car insurance. I'm not selling homeowners insurance where I need 75 people a year like me. I only need about 8 or 10 people a year like me. So what that means is I want to develop a relationship with the individual long-term. I've got clients from the beginning of my career that I still have that are 40% less than everybody else on their health insurance. So when I walk to someone that doesn't know me and they reject me, I kind of feel sorry for them because they're not giving me an opportunity to look at their program, and I'll walk away if it doesn't make sense, right? That's maybe the difference between me as a broker now versus me as a broker 5 or 6 years ago. You always kind of pester people. You're staying in front of them. You're always showing up. You're trying to give them gifts. It's like, if they don't want to save money, they don't want to work with me. Maybe they don't like my face. I don't know, right? They don't want to talk to me. I'll just walk away. I mean, I don't need to work with someone that doesn't want to work with me.
Because I've been out with you on cold calls, you do a really good job of disarming them. You can see that initial wall is up of, what are you doing here? And
you know why? It's because you're just talking to somebody as a regular person. Yeah, I'm not a salesman. In fact, it's funny because one time a person says, "Well, oh no, we don't allow salespeople in here." And I said, "I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling a product, right? I'm just here to help reduce your insurance costs." Now, if you don't believe what I'm saying, that's great. I'll go on to the next person. But if you'll give me an opportunity for 15, 20 minutes to find out if our processes align, I'll understand your business. I'll find out what levers you're not pulling. I'll understand what key performance indicators you're not doing well in. I'll show you how to fix those. And guess what? You can take my solutions to your broker if you want.
So we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
2 quick things I'd like. Tell me what's one key thing that you want the business community to know about you. And then the second one, I want you to interject some advice for some of our younger generation that might be entering the career path that you've chosen and been successful with.
So as far as myself and what I want people to know about me is, I want to help people reduce the cost of their employee benefits programs so that the employees that work for them have a great program, don't feel functionally uninsured even though they're paying. Can you imagine a company paying $500,000 or $1 million a year and the employees hate their benefits plan? That's currently existing with people. I can fix that. That's what I want people to know, is that you don't have to switch carriers. You don't have to go through some crazy quoting process. I'm not bringing in some magical solution. I'm attacking the core of what's driving your costs of your insurance plan and how to do that. As far as new people coming up, I would say you go back to my initial story and the reason why I told it. You've got to put your head down and work hard when you first start your career. It will pay off if you're in the right spot. So in other words, what I see a lot of young people doing is they'll get into a situation and they'll quit because people were mean to them. I could tell you stories. People have been mean to me, and just give up. And like you said, curl into a ball and say, well, I'm just going to go dig ditches the rest of my life because, whatever. I think you have to not give up. As hard as that is, you're going to go through bad times. You're going to curl up in a ball. You're going to have depression. You're going to have all those things. but you've got to come out the other end, and you have to believe in yourself and the fact that you're a legitimate individual and that you're not there to hurt anybody. You're there to help somebody, right? And if you can keep that in front of your mind, keep family first, keep God first. Don't buy a Lamborghini when you make money. Invest in real estate or something else, which is what I wish I would have done, right? Don't be stupid with your money when you get it. I wish I would have bought Bitcoin, honestly, as everybody does. But that's what I'd recommend is don't be stupid with your money. Keep your family first, keep God first, and be a legitimate person, man. Don't try to scam people.
Marcus, I want to thank you for coming on today, sharing your story. I'm glad that your wife is healthy.
She is.
It's been a pleasure spending some time with you lately with both
Thanks.
of our businesses as they kind of coincide, getting to know you. I'm glad that you came on the show, and we want to thank everybody for listening to Genuine Business Stories.
Looking forward to working with you, Clint. You're a genuine guy as well, and I'm glad I met you.
Thanks.
Yep.